Dead Island 2 has finally arrived, and it's a fun and flawed game, but I am going to say that I saw the Metacritic score. It's currently sitting at 73 and thought it's a lot better than that. I just think that a lot of people probably had really high expectations for a game that's really a one note pony, but it really, really plays that one note well. So, in this video, we're going to talk about things I liked, things I thought were okay, and last thing that I hated. And there was one thing about this game that I hated, and it's probably just a minor quip by me, but it was something that I just got frustrated with because it's 2023 and we should not have this anymore. But anyway, let's dive into the video. Let's talk about the first thing that I absolutely loved about this game, and that is the flesh system. It is the procedural gore in this game. It is phenomenal. It really is. It is some of the best and most gruesome, visually captivating things I've ever seen. Like, if you want to see eyeballs just kind of hanging out of a socket, if you want to see spines exposed, you want to see the innards exposed, you want to see like a jaw get popped off, this is that game for you. I think the most gruesome thing you can do is probably hit someone with corrosive. That is absolutely brutal watching a zombie just fall apart in front of you, just melt right in front of you. And it's probably one of the best ways to kind of clear crowds and stuff like that. And if you get the curveball that allows you to throw out the toxic corrosive, use it all the time. It creates a pretty big puddle and it does an insane amount of damage and just melts enemies. Literally, it will melt them. It is super entertaining. I found myself early on applying the force modifier to almost every weapon I had, primarily because enemies in this game will have some type of elemental attribute, and then for whatever reason, and this is kind of like a minor quip, they're completely immune to damage, which makes no sense because if I'm shooting you with a bullet, you're gonna feel that. If I'm hitting you with a bat, you're gonna feel that. But whatever. The thing is, if you use the force modifier, it just dominates, knocks them back, knocks them down, and once you do enough damage to them on the ground, just get a little head stomp in. And that's also super entertaining, by the way. Probably the best head stomps since Dead Space. They do Dead Space so proud with their head stomps because it is so violent, and you can get a skill card which will allow you to actually create like a little small explosion outward, so it'll do damage to enemies. So good for clearing space, very entertaining. I just found that the procedural gore in this game is just so captivating, and I think it's really why Dead Island 2 works. I feel like if they did not have this and it really just kind of, tried to work on what its core concept was, which was melee combat, but you're not seeing like the impact of that melee combat. Yeah, I don't think you could probably hook and captivate as many people as they have. I mean, sold like 1 million copies thus far, which is impressive. But yeah, the flesh system in this game, phenomenal. Moving on to the next thing I loved about Dead Island 2, and that is the environments. I am so serious when I say I had really low expectations for this game. I tried to stay off the internet for any games that are anticipated because I don't want to get anything ruined for me. But playing this game and experiencing these environments for the first time, yeah, it is an absolute, just amazing experience. Roaming around and just seeing how dense everything is. You can enter in a number of storefronts, and most of the storefronts are different. You can enter in a number of houses in Bel Air. You're going into the Halpin Hotel, and there's like certain, areas in the hotel that are open to you, and it's just so dense and so detailed. It's impressive. Honestly, I was very shocked by what I was looking at because, the game isn't an open world. Each area is technically just like its own sandbox area, and I understand why they didn't make it like this one connected streamlined world is because it allowed them to pretty much take these areas and make them as detailed as possible. And so when you're roaming around and you're just kind of jumping from house to house and seeing what facilities you can go into, what areas you can dive into, it's all really impressive when it all comes together, especially with all the things working together against it. You have this city, this neighborhood that's being destroyed. You have cars overturned. You have things on fire. You have all these things happening. And it just honestly looks fantastic. And I was blown away by some of the environmental design in this game. I didn't think they'd go as hard as they did, but I am very appreciative of the developers for taking the time out and giving us a world that you kind of want to explore. Even if there's oddly no music, I think that's fine with me. I didn't notice it because I wanted to see what was over there in that corner. I want to see how to get into that house, how to get into that hill, how to hike into it, that type of stuff. I was just always moving and always wanting to explore. Very fun. The last thing I loved about Dead Island 2 was how optimized your Slayer could be. And that was something I greatly appreciated because it really allows you to create a playstyle that is uber effective, but completely tailored to you. So if you want to be someone who's completely upfront and personal and all about brute force, do it. If you want to have somebody who's just completely about elemental damage and being able to heal and take damage, do it. I thought that this game did a really good job with introducing you to the skill card trees and then slowly building it up as you go along. You get skill cards just by leveling up. You get skill cards by, killing certain enemies and inspecting the environments. It's really recommended that you take your time and build your Slayer up. And I really love when you get into like these really high pressure situations that there are just a number of ways you can approach it, and you can customize your character in and out of combat. So it really doesn't matter if you want to pause and say, I think this ability would be better suited here because I need to clear out waves of enemies. You can do so. I usually utilize the overhead smash a lot because I wanted to clear space. And then I at first wanted the drop kick, but I was like, I don't really need it. Even though at first I was just jump kicking everyone in the face, and it's like I would say the funniest animation because with Jacob, he just like kicks his leg out really quickly and knocks enemies back. It can kill like early on, but after a while, it's not a really useful ability. But I really like the fact that you can optimize your Slayer and have them be as capable and as dangerous as possible. It's something I loved about this game. I love getting into combat encounters and being able to optimize during the fight, which is something I think that a lot of games need to let you do because sometimes you're restricted. You can't go into a pause menu and pull something out because you're in combat. But in Dead Island 2, you can optimize during combat, and it is a lot of fun. Don't forget to also continuously switch weapons to ensure that you can maximize your slaying ability. A couple times I found myself using a gun, but crafting can take up a lot of resources, especially because I felt like gunpowder was the one resource where it was kind of difficult to find unless you're like near a military compound. But I loved swapping weapons, going from a katana to a hammer to a bat. I felt like the bat was like my favorite weapon early on. But yeah, the optimization in this game is really fun. And it's good because the game's not too long to where the feeling, that sensation of being fully optimized just kind of washes over. You still want to experiment until the very end of the game, which I appreciate. Now that we got the good stuff out of the way, let's dive into really the one thing that I thought was okay or iffy, and that was side missions. So there is really no diversity in the side missions in Dead Island 2. It's essentially you get the mission, you go to a certain point, you're more than likely going to enter into a combat arena, and then you move on about your day. That is really it. And depending on who's giving you the mission, it can actually be pretty engaging because some characters you're probably going to really like, and some characters you're probably going to be really annoyed with. And some of them are multi-tiered threads, which are fine, but they essentially do the same thing. One of them early on you'll find out is like, I want to create this massive vlog and I have to kill certain enemies in a certain way. And that was fun for a bit, but then every time you met that character, it was like increasingly weird or odd objectives. And sometimes it worked out and sometimes it was just really long because knocking enemies off a pier is kind of difficult at times because you have to position, you have to take damage at that point, which is kind of frustrating. But I found that some of the side missions to be really fun and some of them to be okay. And I really wish there was more diversity. I think the best side mission in this game is getting into a watchtower in which you have to navigate puzzles, or pretty much the environment rather. It's like an environmental puzzle where there's traps everywhere. And you have to navigate and move around quickly or you're going to get killed. I love the fact that they're like multi-layered where there's a shotgun in front of me, but if I open that, it's going to release toxic gas or it's going to hit me with like flame or something like that. It was just one of those things that I really liked when they actually did throw that curveball in. But for the most part, the only reason I was doing side quests was because I wanted new weapons. Seriously, if there was a side quest out there that granted me a new weapon or a legendary weapon, I was all about it. I would just suffer right through it, but there were some where I completed, I think it was 5 quests total, and what you were rewarded with was a weapon that just wasn't good at that point. So that was kind of frustrating. And I thought that was just okay. But there were some where you were getting like some really badass weapons. Like I got a pistol that shoots out an explosive. Hell yeah, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it all the damn time. Now let's talk about the thing that I hated about this game. And it's a quality of life gripe. And it's something where we're in 2023. I shouldn't have to do this so often. And that is the fast travel. The fast travel in this game is absolutely atrocious. I hated it. I hated the fact that you could only fast travel in certain safe houses in which you had to touch a map. We have moved on from that, in my opinion. Like, you can't go outside of a certain area and immediately teleport back. You can't do any of that. You have to run back to the area. And I understand the areas are small, but if I have to do a mission from one area to another where it requires me to, like, hey, you have to go from Bel Air all the way to Venice Beach, let me fast travel. Let me click on the map in the menu and just fast travel there, right? There should be some type of point. Now, I could get away. Now, listen, if you want me to be safe from the zombies, fine. I get that. But for me to have to physically touch the map to fast travel is a really odd design choice in 2023, seeing how there's so many better fast travel mechanics that we've seen in developments over time. Ghost of Tsushima, I'm looking at you. But it's like my one real big gripe about the game. It's the only thing I really hated, because when you're trying to balance and juggle multiple missions at the same time and you have to like go back to a safe room to fast travel, especially if it's in an area that's not connected to the one you're in, that can be really frustrating. And yes, I was frustrated in this section, so I did shoot that zombie's legs off. I don't apologize. So yeah, that's probably the only thing that I found disappointing about Dead Island 2. And I want to know your thoughts. Leave a comment below about what you think about this game. Did you have a good time with it? Were you, kind of annoyed by the fast travel thing like I was? Did you have like some frustrations with some of the zombies, especially the butchers, right? That, they're kind of a pain in the ass. Once you learn how to deflect, it's just easy. Just hit them back. I think that I wish there were more legendary weapons. I wish that the ending had... I wish the ending was different. That's all I'm going to say about that. And I wish that they had a little bit more diversity in the side quests, because I was really thoroughly engaged in this world. So, if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. I am Ken from Pixelated Thoughts, and I will talk to you next time.